Southern Nevada is abuzz tonight with stories about the crash of an unknown object and the alleged sighting of strange creatures in the backyard of a Northwest Valley home.
Hello, vetters. I have an awesome video for y'all today. If you remember, about a couple months ago, I had on Stephen Diener, who is the host of the Unidentified Alien podcast, and he was investigating the Las Vegas backyard alien case from last May 2023.
16-year-old Angel Canmore says he saw two creatures in his backyard and was paralyzed with fear. His father and brother say they also saw the creatures.
You believe you saw something that wasn't from this planet?
I believe I saw something, that wasn't from Earth.
In that interview, he claimed that he had seen a picture from a screen grab of a video from that night taken by the family that purported to show an alien face. Somewhere in this video, there's more. They found something else
in the background.
That's a face of an alien.
Yeah.
What does it look like? How would you describe this face?
Triangle face, almost like a classic gray.
And we were going to have to wait to see it because the person investigating it, Scott Roeder, hadn't finished his investigation. So basically, this episode is to catch you up, to show you those pictures of purported alien faces from this backyard Las Vegas alien incident.
Looks like there's some type of fin type of thing like this.
Now, this is quite fascinating. So stay tuned. We're going to dive in deep. And yes, you are going to get to see the pictures. So without further ado, let's jump in. All right, Vetted. He's back. Steven, welcome back to the show, man.
Yeah, happy to be back, Patrick. This is really cool. I really enjoyed it the first time, so I appreciate you having me back on.
It was May, right? End of May, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that too. I'm pretty sure end of May, so a couple of months.
Luckily, I edit this, so I'll look really smart, and I will have already put it right.
That's
so
cool.
It's like, that's hindsight. That's editing. All right. Well, look, dude, I'm so stoked. So many people have been requesting you to come back on too. To be honest with you probably don't even know that, but I get tons of requests. I've been hammered for weeks. When are we getting the update? What's happening? I want to know, because that episode that we did together, dude, it really, for the vetted audience, struck a chord, right? For a story that people had maybe brushed away, and myself included, right? And maybe kind of pushed to the back, but new information came out. And I would say, before we kind of jump in, let's kind of recap a little bit, right, we're talking about this Las Vegas alien case. Let's just get the basic story of just that case. When did this encounter take place in Las Vegas? Yeah,
for sure. And first, thank you to you and your audience. That's awesome. I didn't know that people enjoyed it, so that's really cool.
Oh, definitely, dude. Definitely, man.
Yeah, very cool. Happy to come back on, and hopefully they enjoy this one too, because there's definitely new stuff to go over. We covered a lot of ground in our first episode, but specifically with this case, with the Vegas case. So the last time we spoke, I talked to you about the interview that I had with Scott Roeder, who's the crime scene reconstruction expert. Again, just to recap, he's a guy that his main job is to work on major crime scenes. He actually it just came out yesterday that a scene or a case he was working on out of St. Louis. He was helping to present evidence that showed that a man who was in jail for murder was actually innocent, and they just reversed the conviction. So that man in St. Louis is being set free, which is pretty awesome. So good work, Scott. But that's awesome. That's his job. So that's his thing. But he got into this field through Ross Coulthard, who they're friends. And he said, "Hey, Scott, why don't you look? I know you're used to doing crime scene stuff. Why don't you look at this Vegas alien case?" So that kind of piqued his interest. And this originally took place, for anybody who doesn't remember, last May. So it was a wild time last summer. We had the Las Vegas alien case and David Grush almost within a week of each other that came out leading into the summer of 2023.
Right. Yeah.
It was a crazy time. It was a crazy week. So when that happened, The original scenario was this light was seen coming down from the sky. Everybody assumed it was a meteor because it was kind of like a greenish light, which normally, like a meteor will present itself as bluish or greenish, something like that. And it was caught on dashboard cam and vest cam from the Las Vegas PD. Angel from the Kenmore family called 911, says there's 8 to 10 foot aliens in my backyard. The police go investigate, really only because they saw it too. They saw this light come down from the sky. So from there, of course, the investigation happens. The police go in the backyard. There's about 18 minutes of missing body cam footage to this day from the Las Vegas PD that we still don't know what happened. We don't know what they saw when they went back into the backyard. And we'll get into that too, because Scott and I talked about that.
Yeah.
And during that part one, with myself and Scott Roeder, we focused on that happening and the video from the mother of the Kenmore family. And he had that original file, that original video, where he was using his crime scene investigation, his forensic tech and techniques to really break that video down, go frame by frame to find what was in there. What he ended up finding, and he kind of teased us in our part one, which led us into part two, which we just finished up within the past week. What he ended up finding was multiple faces of ETs in the Kenmore backyard on that night. And that kind of brings us here.
Wow, great recap, by the way. Like,
Oh, thanks.
it's like you do this.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, great job, dude. That was a great recap, for sure.
Appreciate it.
Brought us up to speed, because even myself was a little, dude, I do videos every day. I cover a lot of stories. There's a lot going on. It kind of stuff, you know how it is. Stuff goes to the back burner and you're focused on other things. And even myself need to be reminded, right?
It's so true.
Right. Like, so great recap. That brings us up to speed. Exactly. Because that's what people clearly, right. You tease something that give me that thing. Right. So, but we are going to show these pictures, but we're also going to talk about how you got to interview Scott, how he came, to these conclusions, what he's actually saying about the pictures, right, versus what he's not saying.
Yeah.
And maybe what's coming next with, this case or other things he may be working on, which is also interesting because I listened to both parts. I'm going to put links in the description for people to go check your interview out with him specifically. But where do you think? Should we show the pictures now? What do you think? I don't want to do this out of order. I want to go chronologically here. Is there something you want to explain about these? Again, one video that the mother shot. You know what? First question I have. Was there other videos that Scott got to see, or were there other videos made in the backyard during this time, like from other angles or another moment?
Exactly. No, you read my mind. I was just about to say, kind of like a preface going into the pictures. There's one video. It was the only video that was shot from the mother. And basically that's where we're seeing all these different angles. We're seeing, something popping over the fence. We're seeing beings by the forklift and things like that. So this was one video, and it's important to point out, Patrick, and I'm really glad you brought this up because it's important to note that Scott, and he even said this in our interview, he has a specific job. Like his day job, his bread and butter is crime scene reconstruction. And he sits on different ethic boards and things like that. If he fakes evidence, he loses his job. And alien investigation is not his job. So we're talking about a guy that's really just doing this as a passion project. So he's not going to risk his livelihood to fake evidence. And for what? Because he's not making any type of monetary benefit off of this. He's not charging for it. He's not getting money off of clicks or anything like that. He doesn't have sponsors. It's just a passion project. So I'm glad you brought that up because it's the one video, and he took that video and basically just broke it down frame by frame. That's all he did. He did something that any of us can do. It's just that he had the time, the patience, and the technology to do, this project and end up finding these faces. So this is not planted evidence. That's coming from Scott. He made that point to me, and I wanted to kind of put that point across too, because I thought it was important kind of going into this. And I also did mention one thing the last time we spoke, where, and it was kind of a tease, where I mentioned that Scott showed me something off the air, where after we spoke the first time, he and I had a FaceTime call after the interview, and he showed me some of the evidence, which was what I called a clear face of an alien. And that's one of the pictures we're going to see.
Okay. The same picture you saw is what you're saying, right?
Right.
Got it. No, look, I'm excited to show this. Now, the whole video is accessible to anybody, right? It's out there. Okay, got it. So
Scott
look,
has it, I think on his YouTube or on his crime scene page. I forget, but I'm pretty sure it's on his YouTube page.
I will have probably inserted it right here.
Estaba forklift.
Me dijo la médica me va a dar un show. La que dije me cerró y es muy italiano. Pero que dije que la mande que la vez me conté que la acabas. A mí dicen pálpale, hay que utilizar con camisas. Pero llevan usas, llevan un film. De vuelta casi luz, de vuelta casi cayó con dos y luz. Ni come ni si pero para el. Si no se para si para volar.
Ora me que cantis Paris le gallenge alla chorsi ora. Tosi. Ay! Permisar! Calmundarela me cansiles variso. Kylo, cerro que chidi. Kylo, cerro. Kylo. Uy, chedar. Chidi cao.
Agladel, paró.
Chidi cao.
Paró cayó, si le unía caca bare, Agladel.
Kai, cerro.
Adelo, diles.
Permisarle, sale.
Te escucharé lo que te camiona, Agladelo.
Kai, permisar, que sai.
Agladel te
Pero permisar, porque canto no, cerro, que calmundarela me.
Diles, eso lo son, estoy viendo para acá.
Kai.
Ande el camión, lo conchadica del camión. El segundo, de izquierda para acá, de cables.
Kai, cerro, chidi cao, Agladel.
El concho costelo, concho sitilo.
Kai, forklift o camión.
Eso toma muy. Castelo pegachari, palalo, que te acordó con la. Palalo, dile que a casa del hombre indique. Bien luchado, o sea, pegachari, se adolo.
Chidi cao, Agladel, que
vaya, me dígale completico.
Oye, de cables. Kai.
Costelo, de que acá, dile que acá callale, hay muy pelón, sí, pelón, varón, pelón.
Ya, cerro.
Echalo usted a dos, dijeron de Dick. Concha, que la de que chuca.
There you go. Perfect.
So because I think that context is good. So okay, so great. There's this video, and you can tell this is a family that works with bigger machinery, right? They have, let's kind of maybe even from the video, that if you can't tell, let's build out like what does the family work in? What's their right? Like what's in the backyard that we know for certain?
Yeah, it's
you know
almost
what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah, it's almost like a warehouse parking lot. Like if people don't remember the overhead shots of their backyard, you know, we think about a backyard, we think about the white picket fence and the pool, the backyard, you know, things like that. This isn't your normal everyday American backyard. They had like machinery, heavy equipment back there because that's basically what they worked in. So there was a lot of gravel and things like that. So not your typical backyard.
Wasn't there something about an impression or something in the backyard, or
yes,
am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that was one thing that people were trying to figure out. And Scott actually brought this up in our interview, which he said it's one of two things. The impression, it was a circular impression, pretty big. And he said that's either the impression of the craft that landed there, right, allegedly, or it was what people pointed out, I guess, from previous overhead shots. They discovered that there was a pool in that area. So they did have a pool. I talk about not being your typical backyard, but I guess there was a pool in that area. So some people were saying, well, maybe that impression was from the old spot where the pool was, you know, make up your own mind type thing. But there was an impression seen.
Got it. And also, aside from this video and what happened, there was, you know, I heard Scott mention in an interview, ring camera footage that had sound, some sort of mechanical sound, right? And body cam footage, which was famously in the police officer, right? You can see the light flash by. So there's other things besides this video and what's happening from these, you know, still frames we're getting ready to show, right? There's more backstory to it to help give more context, right? So let's first just kind of dive into that ring camera foot. Like, what exactly is that available too?
There was a picture that, yes, the video of the ring camera is available.
Just before midnight on April 30th, skywatchers across several western states saw a bright fireball streak through the heavens. A police officer working in the Northwest Valley caught a glimpse of the colorful object on his body cam. At nearly the same time, a Ring camera in the area recorded a strange noise and what sounds like a crash.
It is out there, and it's really just it's a typical Ring camera video where you
Sure.
kind of it's a little grainy, but you kind of hear like this sound in the back, and it is weird. And Scott kind of described it as like a whirling type of sound, like mechanical. I think is what you just said too. So that's kind of how he described it, which is not normally something you would hear from a meteor falling. And he also says, and this was an interesting point, there is some type of descending that's going on. You know what I mean? It's not like something crashing into the ground. There was no meteor impact with this, Patrick. There is no discernible impact that you would see, with some type of meteorite hitting the ground. And now I made sure to ask him that because I'm thinking, well, if this was your typical everyday, meteor coming down from the sky or whatever, there's going to be some type of debris or impact, and that was never found. So he claims that this was actually slowing down at its descension, which again wouldn't happen in a type of cosmic event, right? I mean, it would actually probably speed up on its way down. But he's saying that he can show that it was slowing down, which is very odd. And to your point, this isn't something to take somebody's word at. This is on video from multiple sources with the Ring doorbell camera and the police dash cam video, the body cam video. Like, this is coming from multiple places, which is unique.
Yeah. And so in this video, you're saying the light he can tell is decreasing in speed?
Right. That was
in one of them. Yeah. Which specific video? Do you know which one?
I believe it was the Ring camera.
Got it. That has the sound to the mechanical sound. So he's saying in that he can shows. I heard him, or it's slowing down. I heard him mention something about it's falling.
Yeah, he refers to it as UFO, meaning unidentified falling objects.
Yeah, which I liked. It was funny.
So that's kind of which I like too. I thought that was pretty good.
Sure.
But that's how he described it. That's how he says he was able to break it down, which is showing the slowing motion and, kind of just falling through the sky. So if that's the case, we're looking at a planned, descension or some type of mechanical malfunction. I don't know.
Where is it alleged that this thing came down? In their backyard where that imprint was?
Pretty much. Yeah. That's what's being alleged. And then, it's being alleged that the craft was cloaked along with the aliens themselves, non-NHI, whatever you want to call them.
Because also he mentions that potentially one of the pieces of machinery is the UFO cloaked as, a tractor or what. I'm not sure what the piece of machinery was. And I don't know even anything about big machinery. So everything's a tractor to me. I'm like 4 years old here. It's a Tonka truck. I don't even know, but right. It was, which is an interesting thought he threw out. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it's cloaked, not invisible, but just like as something else. Right. I don't know. I may be steel manning this back wrong, but please correct me.
No, that's kind of how he, characterized it. And that didn't really, and to be fair, that didn't really come from his investigative work. That was something, because he likes to put it as he's kind of crowdsourcing this. He's putting it out to people who also want to investigate it and who have different programs on the computer where they can do that. So that was kind of came from the crowdsourcing aspect, where someone kind of hinted at or suggested that, hey, according to what I'm kind of going through, they may have actually cloaked into a different piece of machinery. So kind of think Transformers, like Optimus Prime, into a semi truck. So that type of thing.
That's so interesting. Either way, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. Is there any other contextual parts before we get to these pictures and everything, like to understand the story better? Anything I'm missing or you feels relevant?
I think that kind of sets the table pretty well. I feel like anything or everything else that will come up is probably going to come up
Part of
while
it.
we're
Sure.
doing it. So yeah, for
Sure.
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 You can jump in.
Okay. All right, let's do it. All right, I have one with a pink circle, one with a big red arrow, one with a pink circle and kind of an outline with it, and then one that's kind of out of focus. Which one do you think I should pop up first here?
Ooh, the pink arrow. That one gives me chills. I was just thinking about that. Let's do. Well, I think it was the second one that you said.
It's just a pink. It's just a pink circle.
Okay. Yeah. Let's.
Right? Is that what you're saying?
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show it to you real quick. All right, let's see. I should be better at this, but I'm not.
You're holding me in suspense. There he is.
And I'll make it bigger in the final cut here of what we're looking at, but at least for us to see here. Wow. I mean, I made sure to not really look at the pictures when you sent them because I just wanted to have my first reaction right here with you, if I'm being honest. Right. So I just wanted this to be like real. And look, that's interesting. Okay. It's got these dark black, right? That outline really spells something there. And on the sides, it kind of gives a form of like a head.
Yeah.
And even a forehead as well. It almost looks like Groot's face, like oddly enough. Like it is strange looking. I'm not gonna lie. It is strange. Now, before we jump into these pictures, there is, I forget the term, and I'm sure I'll put it up on screen and explain it, but where you see faces and things.
Yes.
I don't know if I have that. I'm pretty, I don't know. It's like, how do people know? How do you even know if you're doing that? Does that make sense? Like,
for sure. And that's something. Yeah, that's something that I tried to tell myself too. I forget the term for it too. It's some, weird scientific term, but it basically just says that even if I tried to say, I'm sure I'd mess up. But it says that, we're, as humans, we're programmed to see faces and other things. That's how our brain works. And I try to tell myself that, and I try to eliminate that factor, but I can't help but to look at this and see the classic alien face, and with the big black eyes, the triangle shaped head. And there's two things real quick. I'll touch on this.
All right, it is kind of triangle. All right. Yeah, you're right.
It is.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
There is there's like a triangular shape to it. And there were actually other things. Well, so there's two things about this that I didn't notice that other people pointed out to me on Twitter. So, but before I get to that, this is the photo. When you and I first spoke, and I said there was a picture that Scott showed me where I was like, oh my gosh, that's an alien face. It's this one. But there was a twist to it. The one that he showed me it was like, I think you remember me saying it was almost like a thermal type of spectrum to it.
Yeah.
That correlates to the quantum imaging. And he spoke about quantum imaging in our interview together, where he said he's not doing the quantum imaging. Somebody in the crowdsourcing was doing the quantum imaging, but he doesn't know exactly where or how that technology comes from. So he wasn't using it. But this is this is the photo where I was like, oh my gosh, this is an alien face. But what people pointed out to me were two really weird things. And I know you'll be able to see it when you zoom in. If you can almost notice at the top of the head, like right below the pink circle, it almost looks like there's some type of like fin type of thing like this, almost like a scale. And
that's like the forehead or something to me. But yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I didn't notice that. Someone had said to me, they're like, am I seeing horns or something along those lines? I'm like, wow, I didn't even see that. And then
that's interesting.
And a blurred out, and this had to be super zoomed in because someone took a screen capture of it and put it on the Twitter comments. They were able to zoom in below the head, and you can almost make out spindly arms and ribs, but it's very pixely, almost like the cloaking device, which is why we only see the head. It's like the cloaking device was failing, and this is my theory, that the cloaking device was failing, and we're able to see the head, and we're able to make out a body when we zoom in on it. It's really creepy.
I mean, it definitely seems like there's something below the head, right? Like
Yeah.
part of it or some, or yeah. Like, where is this in the video? Like, what frame is this? Like, where is this
This
in the
was
overall
in
video?
I believe this was when the mother was, like, panning over towards the forklift area, because a lot of people mentioned the forklift area when this video first came out, and then a lot of people couldn't find the original video. Thankfully, Scott was able to grab it and do all this work.
Sure.
But so this was kind of like in the back of the backyard, because a lot of it, people, the first time we were just seeing this dark shadow come over the fence, but there was a lot happening in the background, and this was one of them.
So in the back of the, like, what's around the edge of this face? Like, what is these other things? Is that the machinery behind it, or?
I think so, or it was trees. I can't say for sure. I would have to go back myself and look, but I can't say
Right
for sure.
on.
Yeah.
I'll try to match it up myself. No, that's interesting. I'm just trying to find out where in the video, right, this is
Basic.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, that's interesting for sure. Okay, what's the next photo you think I should show? It doesn't matter at this point.
Just go.
I have one picture I find fascinating. Can I
Do
just
it.
show that real quick?
Do it,
Like
yeah.
this one definitely gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of like that scene in Signs where the alien walks across. Like, I still have nightmares about that.
You and me both.
Right? Yeah, it's so crazy. All right, let me pull it up here.
Yeah, that scene from Signs was so creepy, man. Kudos to M.
Oh.
Night Shyamalan. I think that stuck with all of us over the years.
Dude, for sure. I got to work as a extra on Lady in the Water and for M. Night
Nice.
Shyamalan. So for like a week, I got to, I didn't hang out with him, but he was there directing us, like, and all this stuff. That was cool. And I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna be in the next Signs. This is gonna be great. And that movie bombed.
Oh man.
Yeah. Pick the worst M. Night Shyamalan movie to be in of all, like, just my luck. But this picture right here, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty, because it's out of focus.
Mm-hmm.
It's got like this arm. You see this head, a body. The only thing that's weird about it is that thing in the center.
Yeah.
Is strange, for sure, and maybe at the bottom there a little bit, but that's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing, this one creeped me out too. A lot of them did, quite frankly, but I'm seeing two big black eyes. I'm seeing the face, kind of like in the other picture. You're right, though. It looks like the alien from walks by.
What? Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Wait, you see two black eyes? Oh, you're saying on the left and right of the center light there at the top?
Yes.
Okay, I see what you're saying. All right, let me look at that a little bit here. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting.
It's almost like it's zoomed in on the face.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see. All right. See, I was looking at it a little differently.
Okay. It is interesting, though, right? How you can look at the picture and see different things.
Of course.
I mean,
it's all about interpretation a lot of times. Right. I mean, with this. But again, when you consider all the context of the whole story, that's why I wanted to set the story, because I don't think it's entirely fair to just judge these screenshots and dismiss the whole case.
Right.
There is a lot to it, contextually, but there's some compelling stuff here, for sure. Look, I'm going to show this other picture because it does add some. He added. Here, I'll just put it up here.
Yeah. And listen, and skeptics will say, I don't see anything, or you're seeing phantoms, and that's fine. By all means, it's everybody have their own opinion. But I know for me, I see stuff like this picture you're showing right now, where it outlines where this head was as it moved into the camera. This was the original one that he and I spoke about. This was where Angel was approaching the fence.
That's right.
And
yeah, at the beginning, right? It's like at the beginning of the footage, essentially.
And this was actually the one that he did the work on for News Nation,
where it showed the shadow being moving in and out.
Exactly. And he was able to show, even in between the wooden fence posts where he was able to show shadow going through the fence posts, kind of representing where the legs would be. And as the head kind of comes into focus, you see this shadow kind of go like this. It's a very unnatural movement. It's not following the way somebody's walking. A lot of people say, you know, well, that's just the shadow of Angel or whoever was walking through the fence, but it's a very unnatural. It was just kind of like this as that face, as that, you know, shadow,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, comes right over the fence. So what Scott did was, is he basically outlined what was there to make it easier to see. And
Sure.
I mean, you could see the head size difference too. You know, I think that's important to point out because remember Angel's original claim of 8 to 10 foot aliens in his backyard with big eyes. And that's exactly what that is. I mean, look how much bigger his head is compared to them walking in below.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, this guy, right, with his back turned, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it got like, I guess, little horns at the top,
Maybe.
right?
Yeah.
Something. I mean, you know, I don't know about this one. I'm not as, you know, stunned by this one entirely. I think honestly, the line drawings may screw it up for me because it looks
Yeah.
like a little kid just like drawing a thing. Like I can't see anything else but that. You know, almost looks like Deadpool creeping over here, like a little bit. Like, but look, he did a lot of work on this.
Yeah.
He said in the interview he worked 9 months on this, putting this together. He went frame by frame of this video. So he did put, you know, clearly put in a lot of work. And yeah, I mean, that last picture I showed, like I said, it is interesting. And even the one you know, you reacted to initially and that we showed first, it's pretty compelling. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's strange. All right, there's one more picture here with a big red arrow. And then, all right, hang on. Because I'm curious to get your take on this, like what we're seeing here.
Yeah, for
All right,
sure.
this one.
Oh, there's my buddy. Oh yeah.
So what's it pointing to here?
So this one's so weird for me, man. When I was doing the
It looks like two faces almost mashed up or something weird,
Yeah.
right? Like,
when I was having the conversation, recording the conversation live with Scott, he had sent me the photos about an hour before we were going to talk. And like you, I didn't really want to look through all of them because I wanted to be able to react as we were talking. And when we got to this one, I had, again, this is just my reaction, but I had chills because this face just popped out to me and it felt like it was just really bad. It felt like I was looking at a face that was not nice. And actually, I had like a real time reaction. I had a visceral reaction as we were talking during the episode because what I see here is like a big bulbous head. So if you look at the top of the arrow and then kind of go across, I see like this big bulbous head. And then as you look at the arrow, the point of the arrow itself, it's almost pointing to like where the nose would be and the two eyes. And right below that is like this slender chin with cheekbones around it. And it's just to me, it looks like this giant bulbous head with big eyes. And maybe there is like some type of mashing together of two different beings there. It's hard to tell. And I even tried to bring up to Scott, I'm like, you know, is this trees? Are we trying to make too much out of this? You know, is this the shadow of a tree giving off or something? But the way that this picture just resonated with me when I first saw it, I was like, I'm looking at something here that I can't explain.
Sure. I mean, there's something there where the arrow's pointing that there's some sort of something, right? You got the contrast of all the different lights. So it's shaping something. I'm trying to see the big bulbous head you see, unless, all right, maybe I do see that a little bit here. I don't know. My first thing was like those theater face things. You ever seen that where they're like together?
Right.
Theater things like that's kind of what I saw, which is still interesting in and of itself.
Yeah.
You know, of all the things, right, you saw talking with Scott, the conversations, considering like all the context for you, Stephen, what do you think happened this night?
So
This,
there's
to
a
this
couple.
family.
Yeah, and it's a great question because there's a couple of elements to this that I think are important as far as the context goes when we take into account all the facts and all the details, right? When this first came down, as Angel describes in the backyard, when this kind of first happened, he described as, because remember he did like one video and he maybe did like one interview, but they don't really talk to a lot of people. But he described as they were frozen at first, and then they prayed, and they were able to become unfrozen. And eventually they end up going back inside the house. You know, they make the 911 call. We know that 911 call occurred because we've heard it. It's on the record.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it, and big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
And as they were in the house, Angel describes hearing footprints on the roof. I mean, you talk about signs that, it makes me think of that. It makes me think of that scene. It's super creepy. But he describes hearing footprints on the roof because I, as I was going through these pictures, I couldn't help but to think, how many of these things were there? Like, we had originally thought 2, maybe 3 from the 911 call, but there's multiple pictures that we're looking at of multiple oddities in the backyard, coming in and out of focus, coming in and out of reality, however you want to put it. So we don't know how many there were. But if you're talking about Angel saying that he's hearing footprints on the roof, there's, I don't know, man. Like there could be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these things back there. We don't know the real number. So, and then again, as they were in the house, they started to pray and those noises went away. So I don't know what that means. What I do know is that if you're taking Angel at his word in this case, then for whatever reason, Patrick, prayers seem to work in this scenario. So make of that what you will. I don't know what that means, but it seemed to work, and it worked twice.
Angel says they heard the patter of multiple feet in the yard. They later heard footsteps on their roof. They saw one of the 8-foot-tall creatures climb behind the controls of a large front loader stored in the yard, as if trying to engage it. He got a good look at one of the creatures, he said, a greenish-grayish being with large eyes and long legs. He says he could hear its deep breaths, and when he locked eyes, he was, in essence, frozen in place, couldn't move.
Who else besides Angel saw the beings, or was the whole family praying?
Yeah, him and his father. I believe and I might get this wrong, but I believe it was his brother, his father, and his mother. But yeah,
so they all felt frozen. They all felt that and admitted to that, and then said, "We prayed." Well, how did they pray if they were frozen?
I think just like, in their head.
Not bringing their hands up.
Right,
Yeah, look at
right.
me. I'm like Madonna over here, like a virgin or whatever that song is. Look, that's so pathetic. You're right. Of course, you don't need to put your hands up to pray. Oh my God, Patrick. Okay, no. So they're frozen and they're just like, oh shit. And I get it. They're probably Catholic, right? And they start praying, and so then they're able to move. And that's what you mean by frozen, right? Physically frozen.
Angel described it as physically frozen, like they could not move. And so the reason I bring this up is I think it's relevant to something that has been spoken about a lot, and even to reference Lou Elizondo, his new book coming out, I think in August. There was some excerpts of that dropped. And one of the excerpts was, and you've probably seen it, you may have even spoken about it.
That was my video yesterday, technically today, because you and I were talking today. But yeah,
there you go. So you probably even spoke about the one where he's talking about the meeting with one of his partners, and they were his partner, John Lakatsky, I believe his name was John or Jay Lakatsky. James, thank you, was going to present the supernatural aspect of this and talk about angels and demons and archangels in the spiritual realm. And Lou Elizondo was like, let's hold off on that a little bit. Like, we got to introduce this topic to the lawmakers before we start going down that road. And that's in his book. So there's something going on there with this man. Like, when we start to connect the dots, listen, I'm not a theologian by any means.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, if you start to connect some dots here, Lou Elizondo's writing about that in his book. A lot of people have spoken about the connection, the possible angels and demons aspect, the spiritual aspect of this. And then when you bring this in, prayer is releasing them from whatever was in their backyard. So I don't know, man. Whatever it was may not have been good.
What you said, they prayed twice. What was the second prayer they did?
After the 911 call, when they were hearing the footsteps on the roof.
They were like, oh, Dios mío, madre mía, que se vayan estos ruidos por Dios. Right. They probably brought up their hands then. Right. Yeah, I get it. Look, my family's Latin, my mom's from Mexico. So like, I get it, dude. Like, that's exactly my wife's from Spain.
Nice.
So we would have the exact same reaction, madre mía, agarra todo. We'd just be grabbing everything. Get the hell out of here.
Sure.
What is happening? Okay, so they pray, and what do they pray then, or what do they say happens?
So and
they pray for the noise to go away, or what?
I think it was just a release, right? Just of like be gone type thing.
Totally. Yeah, be gone.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that kind of takes us to the mysterious part. What happened next? And we don't know.
Okay.
And that's where we're kind of stuck now, is what happened after that night? Where did they all go? Where did this alleged cloaked craft go? Is it still there? Did it take off without them knowing? Did they fix whatever issue they had that caused them to crash, if that's the case?
Sure.
And what did they see when the cop went in the backyard with them? We have that 18 minutes of missing body cam footage, and it was actually brought up that Scott Roeder has put in a Freedom of Information Act request to get that body cam footage.
Because I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard, or?
They see like a big, that's what they say. They see like a big something with lights. Can we go outside? I have a big jar in the back. You can see.
I see a cat over there.
No, please, can you check, because this police is not gonna let this sleep.
What's the reason they're giving that it's missing?
Great question. Like they won't show it. And they haven't given an explanation to it. So, did they see footprints back there? Did they come across beings? All we know is that after the cop came out of the backyard, the body cam footage picks back up, and he's kind of having like a nervous laugh about it. And he says, next time you call about aliens, call somebody else, or call the FBI or something, because I don't want to come back. What made him have that reaction? Was he just freaked out, like you go into a haunted house and you expect something to pop out at you? Or did they come across something in the backyard that freaked him out that we haven't seen yet?
Or he thought it was fucking bullshit, and he was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, hey, man, don't call me back here for this shit. There's no transforming aliens back here. But who knows?
All right, man. We appreciate you calling. Give us a call if you see anything else, okay?
Aliens.
I know. Legit, bro.
Wait, if those 9-foot beings come back.
No, hey. If those 9-foot beings come back, don't call us, all right? Deal with it yourself. I ain't dealing with that. I'll drive by and wave at you guys. You're on your own, bro.
Take care, guys. Have a good one. All right, so let's use your group over here.
Yeah.
The body cam footage or the dash cam of that, the light, whatever it is super intriguing and fascinating. And it did make the cops go and look into this. And has Angel or the family experienced anything since that night?
As far as I know, they haven't.
something else has begun to happen, they say, now inside the home. And they're very afraid of what they have been, what they say that they have been witnessing inside their home. Can you describe what it is they're telling you?
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why Angel has pivoted from calling what he saw that night an alien instead, now calling it a demon, because he feels like he's seeing so much paranormal activity and just strange, unexplainable things happening inside of his home. There was 2 anecdotes, one in particular that we're about to show you that literally made the hairs on my arms stand up just because it is so freaky, so unexplainable. We have a segment of that part of the conversation. You mentioned paranormal activity. What exactly did you see?
Well, I was in another room. My brother called me, and there was a upside down cross, and there was a Jesus statue in it. They ripped Jesus out of it. They threw him like across the room, and it was floating upside down.
Are you saying floating in the air?
Yeah, like in the air. It was floating upside down.
What did you do? I mean, did you go pick it up? Did you knock it down? Like how?
No, I didn't do nothing. I was just sitting there. I was crazy. I was like, what?
You and I are cut from a different cloth where we want to find the answers, right? We want to investigate this. We want to know what's going on. But it's easy to say that we would go in the backyard with a flashlight and say, come on out. I want to interview you. We've never been in that situation, you know?
Sure. 100%. I look, I am not about to confront anything. If someone says there's aliens in the backyard, Patrick, you have a UFO podcast. I don't care. The door to the front door would be already swinging open, and I wouldn't even be there. I'd be so far gone. You know, I'll get the second interview of aliens once I realize they don't kill the first guy that interviews them.
Right.
I'll do the second interview with aliens. I'm with you. You know, this whole hero in the moment situation. You know, who know? You know. Absolutely. And look, that can be terrifying. It starts spreading. Everyone's going, what's going on? And I'm sure the whole crew, right, was like, let's get back here. Let's see what's going on. We got somebody back here. We're taking them out. Right. Like, look, I get it. For sure.
What's kind of weird too, and I would love to see a follow-up on this. Scott says that DHS, Department of Homeland Security, actually put cameras in their backyard after this whole thing. We don't know what those cameras have caught, but
that's super interesting.
Right. I mean, according
why
to
would you do that for a crank call?
Exactly.
16-year-old Angel Canmore says he saw 2 creatures in his backyard and was paralyzed with fear. His father and brother say they also saw the creatures.
You believe you saw something that wasn't from this planet?
I believe I saw something, yeah, that wasn't like from Earth.
Was this really an extraterrestrial sighting? The family says 3 days after the encounter, a government vehicle showed up outside the house with 3 men in black to investigate.
I knew it. This is an alien, and you guys are from some government agency trying to keep it under wraps.
We see 3 guys who was driving a black Suburban with U.S. government plates in it. They was passing around. They, you know, when we opened the garage, we went through them. They're just run away.
Do you think that they were here to investigate what happened?
Probably is.
When Las Vegas cops released the body cam footage, the worldwide spotlight was thrust on the Kenmore family overnight. Total strangers flocked to their home, wanting to see for themselves the location of one of the most intriguing UFO sightings in decades.
Right. And again,
that's interesting.
This isn't somebody that is
and why would somebody like Scott dedicate 9 months and even more time on this?
Right. Exactly. You know, this isn't somebody just tweeting something out, sitting on their couch, watching a movie and be like, oh, by the way, Homeland Security has cameras in the backyard. Talk to you later. Like, this is a reputable dude. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
there's a lot of context that definitely makes this more compelling than just a regular case, which is why I think so many people are fascinated, right? Or why do you think so many people are fascinated with this? Do you think that's it, or what do you think?
I think that's why. No, I think you kind of nailed it. This was one of those things. It's one of the rare ones that hit the mainstream, right?
Yeah.
We can probably count on one hand.
That's true.
You know, like Phoenix Lights in 1997 was very mainstream. You know, Capitol Lights in the 1950s, that was mainstream. Roswell, of course. But there aren't a lot of these cases that really get talked about on TMZ and the nightly news. This one was. And I think it kind of captured it, and it's Las Vegas, right? Just like with Miami, you have a big city.
Sure.
So that captures the imagination when it goes along with it. So I think because it was just so accessible and so prevalent in the news and on social media, it really caught everybody's attention. And then pair it with the unanswered questions. What was it? Like this is the furthest we've gotten, is the work that Scott has done that we've talked about here today. So I know there's still more work to be done, and Scott is going to go to Las Vegas. He's mentioned that he's going to go and try to track things down on his own and see what he can find out. Like, he wants to go to their house. He wants to go to the backyard. He wants to talk to Las Vegas.
Love it.
So
yeah, I love it. I love it. We need more boots on the ground like this and people willing to do that at the end of the day. Right. Because it can be easy to dismiss photo, story, a thing, it's so easy to do that. But yeah, we do need people to go in and investigate like Scott's doing. And even yourself, that, promoting the story, bringing it out, talking with Scott, following up on it, just being open and transparent with everything and sharing, the pictures, and this is the process and this is what's happening. I mean, I'm all about it. So, people are going to make up their own minds, right? I heard you say that in your show, and I say that on mine all the time too. Right. Here to just show the stuff. You make up your own mind on what you think is going on. But at the end of the day, just remember, this guy's actually going out and doing something. Let him finish his investigation. That's where I'm at. I just want to see where this goes, what's going on. That missing body cam footage would be interesting for sure. The DHS stuff is quite fascinating. Has the family had any experiences since? Yeah, I mean, it's super fascinating. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. With any good investigation, answers kind of beget more questions.
Yeah.
Totally. It's like the meme from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's standing up there and all the papers and the lines on the cork board. That's kind of what this turns into.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got something figured out, but then you're like, well, then what are
now
these?
This? Yeah, and what about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
that's interesting.
I think the bottom line is, Patrick, and I think I even said this on UAP, so I forgive, kind of repeating myself, but they saw something. There's video of this, and I think this also answers the question you asked of why does this one gain so much attention? Because there's so much video of it, because there's a Ring doorbell, because there's police body cam and dashboard footage, because there's a 911 call and police actually came to the house, because there's cell phone video, because there's pictures from the cell phone video. There's so much that goes into this, and that really lends credence to the fact we have pictures of something. We don't know exactly what it is. I can look at it and say, that's an alien face. That's an alien face. That might be a tree. That might be an owl. Like, again, like you said, make up your own mind, but there's something going on there in that backyard. Something happened that spooked them, that freaked them out, that is caught on video and in those pictures. And I think that's kind of the bottom line at this point.
Yeah, no, to be honest, like, one thing that got cleared up for me in this story, which is kind of a big deal in my mind, was that I always thought that only Angel experienced all of this, and I didn't realize that the family had also experienced stuff, and that was kind of a misconception for me. So even myself, like, clearing that up, because that lends a lot of credence more to it, right? Credibility than just one guy going through this story. It's that's a lot harder. Oh, this whole family, maybe not the entire experience, but significant parts. And that's, I didn't know that.
Do you believe that these creatures were human?
They was not human.
What color were they?
Like green, gray.
We asked them to draw what they saw.
To the best of your ability, draw what you recall. Don't look at each other, just focus on your own pad and try from your memory to draw a picture of the creature that you saw. This is what you drew, and describe this. What is this? And what are these?
These are, they look like ears, but they have they look like antenna, like light.
And large eyes?
Large eyes, a lot of teeth.
No nose?
No, no.
Describe this if you can.
You know, this is what I saw. The light was beside him.
Yeah.
I've tried to make the skin color, the skin tone had. One of the legs, they look bent.
Yeah, it's a good point because it doesn't get brought up very much. You're right. You know, Angel was kind of the forefront of it. He did the video afterward and everybody talked about him. But yeah, this was a family ordeal. So you're right. It's important to remember it. It's also, I think, kind of good to remember that they don't want publicity. You know, they're not asking for Ross Coulthart to come and interview them and do a News Nation interview or anything like that. They're not doing multiple YouTube videos and talking about this. Like, it's only been talked about a couple of times on their end, and for the most part, they want to stay hidden.
Sure.
So
yeah,
I think that I think that lends to credibility, personally.
Sure. You know, I particularly myself don't see aliens in those pictures. I don't know. Do I see something? Yeah, I think I don't know what I can make with it. What I'm more stuck with for me is the family, their story, the moment of the pattering on the roof and they're hearing and they're praying it away, the frozen, all of that. That's very intriguing to me, even more than the footage itself. But even the footage is also intriguing. So I'm definitely just going to keep my, eyes and mind open to hear the rest of the story and what happens with it. I do find it fascinating, man. And again, I'm glad people look into this and give us something to talk about and discuss and right. Cause it's not like this is the only story out there. So
right.
That also is interesting, right? What other figures does it look like from other stories that have been told, right? Or other situations? Have other families experienced the same sort of, scenario, which is interesting.
It kind of, no, you're right. And it kind of makes a story pop into my head. There's a famous story out of Kentucky. I want to say it was in the 1950s where, and I think this is actually where the term the Greys comes from.
Oh, okay.
Where this family on a farm talks about these little gray aliens essentially like attacking their house. And it was talked about in a local newspaper in Kentucky, and the family was attacked. Like that's their
Were they shooting at them and stuff?
At them, yes.
Oh, this story is crazy. I agree. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You're right. That is a crazy story.
It's insane.
I have to admit, it is. That one is pretty,
And you know what? There's 70 years difference with these stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Sure.
but we're talking about similar experiences, different states, different generations.
Oh, entirely. Absolutely.
And they're right. They were shooting at the aliens with their shotgun. Like, incredible
Absolutely.
stuff.
And from a family that, like, doesn't seem like they're going to just make something like this up. So it's just this crazy. That's what boggles my mind sometimes about some stories like that. It's like, this person just doesn't look like they're just going to make this up. Now, again, I'm not saying that's a reason to believe something so extraordinary, but it's interesting to consider.
Right. And there's one piece that
it's not like Angel and this family in Las Vegas have a history of making up stories or hoaxing thing right? Like that's not true at all. This is just a normal, hardworking family with a small business. They're in Las Vegas working hard, probably very hard.
Yeah,
to be honest. And I think that's also important to consider.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And there was one thing that happened last year when this was first going down. People pointed to the fact that Angel had a YouTube channel, and they're like, "Oh, well, he's making that." You remember that?
Yeah.
And I say to that, like, who doesn't have a YouTube channel?
Totally. And if it was real, that you would do that too. You'd be like, yeah, I'm getting a YouTube channel going. Let's go, boy. I got this shit.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 7-year-olds who make multi-millions of dollars with YouTube channels. Like everybody has a YouTube channel. So I don't think that takes away from his credibility if he had existing.
I agree. I agree 100%. And even if he didn't and he started one because of that incident, well, you would do that. I don't. And he's a kid. He's also a kid, right? He's not, I agree. That has nothing to do with it to me.
Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This is my first video. I'm here to tell you what happened to me on May 1st, 2023. I'm trying to explain the best of my abilities. This is not a conspiracy theory. I'm not making this story up for clout or fame. I just want to tell you what happened to me and my family.
It's kind of one of these stories that a lot of these stories, fall into at the end of the day. It can't really be debunked per se, but not necessarily 100% proven.
Sure.
But it falls into this is interesting. And this is, let's keep an eye on this.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Things.
For sure. And there were other pictures that Scott went through and everything like that, but I found those personally, the ones that you showed, I found those to be the most compelling photos, because the other ones, they're just like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Like, it's weird,
Yeah.
it's strange, but I don't know what I'm seeing. There's something there.
Sure.
It looks like two glowing eyes, looks like E.T. out of the movie, but I'm not really sure what I'm seeing. So there was a lot going on there. It was very
No,
odd.
for sure. Absolutely. I wish they would just these aliens get a ring light and just give us the perfect, just look for sure, which would be great. Yeah, no, man. Look, again, really appreciate the hard work that you put into this case, and Scott as well. And I know that Scott even brought up he's thinking about looking at the Miami case, right? The Miami Mall incident. What are they calling it? Is that it? The Miami Mall incident or something? I don't know what the official name was.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. New Year's Day this year, 2024, Miami Mall. We all remember what happened. We all remember those reports.
Okay, and now to our #1 trending story on CBSMiami.com.
It involves talk of alien sightings at Bayside Marketplace. On New Year's Day, there was a massive police response in downtown Miami. More than 50 young people armed with sticks began fighting. Police say juveniles were also setting off fireworks, causing chaos.
So now people are posting online saying that police weren't there to handle a group of rowdy teens, but rather 8 to 10 feet tall shadowy aliens. Conspiracy theories are saying a big creature could be seen standing in front of the entrance to the shopping area, Bayside. Today, the phrases Miami Mall and aliens of Miami have been among the top 10 searches on Twitter's trending tab. Twitter, of course, now called X. And Google News even has several reports questioning the event.
So we reached out to the Miami Police Department. They issued a statement saying in part, quote, "There were no aliens, UFOs, or ETs. No airports were closed, no power outages." Facepalm emoji was included in the statement. And to read up on the story that has gone viral, just head to our website. It is cbsmiami.com.
Read all you want, but remember, no aliens.
Shadow beings.
Yeah.
Same as this. Tall ones, in fact.
Exactly right. Tall
Right.
shadow beings. People, eyewitnesses describe them as coming in and out of reality. Same type of thing here.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
It absolutely is.
Jesus
Like
Christ.
I know. One guy, it is terrifying. One guy described it as like this thing was glitching, like in and out.
Oh,
So
shit.
that kind of lends to
Digital aliens, y'all. That's my theory. I'm telling you, it's been digital aliens all along. Dude, that's my theory. I just think there's something to that. I don't know. Again, I don't know, but oh, that's fascinating. I didn't know that. That would be terrifying to see that, right? Like, Jesus Christ, I can't even imagine.
Exactly right. And that's what I look forward to Scott kind of getting into on that case, because I know he's not done with Vegas either. He's going to do more work on that, but he
wants to get into that, right? We need people like him doing this, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been doing, crime scene for over 20 years, 25 years. So, again, this is like his side project, passion project when it comes to this. And what I'm curious to see if he's able to get into it is to talk to the eyewitnesses who were there, because the strangest thing to me with the Miami case has always been, Patrick, two things. Living down here, I know how sensationalized local news can get. Okay. Sure. South Florida is a wild place.
Yeah.
The local news, any news is obviously sensationalized, local or national, but the local news down here is especially sensationalized.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a peep out of that story from a lot of the local news stations. Now, granted, it's New Year's Day. People are on vacation. We're watching the Rose Bowl and things like that, you know? So maybe that had something to do with it. But this was a big deal. You had a mass amount of cops
Yeah.
who came on the scene. So you would think that's going to be covered. And it was covered to a certain extent. I'm not going to sit here and act like, you know, it was completely ignored. That's not true. But it was covered not nearly as much as something like that with that type of police presence would have been covered. And then the lack of cell phone video. Where is it? Anything that happens in any type of mass chaos scenario, there is footage from every single type of angle. There is not one video from inside that mall.
Really?
Not one video. There is one that people point to from a dash cam video that shows a group of teenagers fighting. It was like in the alley of the mall.
Okay, yeah, I might have seen that.
And they kind of point. NBC6 in Miami did a report on it. They were one of the stations that covered it briefly.
Okay.
And they pointed in their news package that day in that report, they showed that video from the dash cam of the cop who was basically came onto the scene for the fight. And that was their official story, that it was teenagers causing a ruckus, shooting off fireworks in the mall. And that's what caused the entirety of the Miami PD to show up and lock down the area.
Got it. Okay.
Very odd. Very odd.
Got it.
The fact that there's no cell phone video from inside the mall, you know,
I agree.
You know,
I agree. That's weird.
Where is it?
Sure.
Witnesses said that their phones were being confiscated or being told to delete all their video. So again, it's one of those things that Scott's going to look into. That's like the next thing he's going to look into. I've always been intrigued by it. I know you have a lot of people who have been intrigued by that case.
Yeah.
How much truth of it, is there to all these claims? I think the fact is we haven't seen any videos, so there must be a reason why, right?
Sure. I don't know. Yeah. Curious to see what he comes out with on that, to be honest with you.
Sorry for joining on.
No, please. I'm happy to hear all that. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know some of that stuff, so I was happy to hear that. I don't know much about it, to be honest with you. So I will be excited to see what he uncovers, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some strange things there, right? That's what pulls you in. There's always these kind of strange circumstances can kind of pull you in, which I get. No, that's crazy. What else you have coming up? Anything big you got coming up you're working on?
Oh,
thinking about
just some UFOs flying over the assassination attempt of President Trump. No big deal.
No big deal. No big deal.
What the hell is going on?
How many videos? Because I've seen more than one video,
Yeah.
like instance or whatever. Like, how many are there? 3,
So
4?
I saw about 3. Yeah.
Okay.
This episode actually just came out today. I did this, produced it yesterday, and I'm putting it out today because I just put out part 2 with Scott on Monday. So I wanted to give it a little breathing room. But I'm like, I gotta talk about this and I gotta get it out there. I really kind of just dive deep on what was discovered. Like, on that day, July 13th, we all experienced it. We all lived through that moment in history of the assassination attempt. And it didn't come out until about a week later, this past weekend, where just kind of at-home investigators were slowing down cell phone footage of that day to try to find clues and things like that, second shooter theory, whatever people were trying to find. And in that work of trying to find clues, of going frame by frame, they ended up finding UFOs flying by. And you have a kind of like a classic saucer-shaped UFO, decent size, surrounded by 4 orb UFOs. And they go so fast.
I don't know if I've seen that one. Jesus. Okay.
It's crazy. And I mentioned in the episode too, is that, all retweeted. So if you haven't seen it, for anybody who hasn't, it will be on the Twitter handle at UA Podcast 850. And it's going so fast, Patrick, that you cannot see it in the normal video. It's essentially invisible to the naked eye in a normal frame rate of a video. because of how
That's
fast it's
kind of
moving.
interesting. Yeah, that is interesting.
So
Hmm.
it's crazy. Like, why were these things there in almost at the precise moment that the shots were taken? Not at the moment, because I know a theory could be, well, maybe that's just the bullets that people caught, you know? Totally understandable. But it was
Sure.
before the shots.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
man,
you're not catching a bullet in normal cell phone footage. Okay,
you
I'm
would think,
sorry. That's not happening. You're not catching a bullet. It's not you gotta have, crazy shutter speed going. Like, there's
yeah,
no way you're catching a bullet. No, that's that I definitely saw some videos. One with the flag, it flew by.
right.
That one was interesting. Yeah, there was a few and people were sharing them, people were talking about it. I don't know. I personally, I mean, everything looks interesting, but at the same time, I don't know. Some of the ones I thought it could be a bug. I don't know.
Sure.
And I know that sounds like such a bug to aliens, but I've filmed a lot and bugs fly around and they look crazy on camera later when you see it. It
Yeah.
does. It looks like holy shit. But I don't know. There was a lot happening. The camera's kind of pointed up. It's kind of clear, and even it kind of looks like it maybe goes behind the flag on that one I'm talking about,
Mhm.
which that would be a pretty huge bug to be flying by. Kind of impossible. So I don't know. It's definitely compelling. Not gonna lie. I haven't seen this one that you're talking about though, so I will be interested to see that one and hear your episode on this because yeah, I think it should be covered, and I'm glad you took a deeper dive. Like, what did you come away, at the end of the day thinking? Or you want people to just check out your video? I don't want to spoil it.
No, 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 no. It kind of makes me feel uneasy, if I'm being honest,
Okay.
because there's two different, you know, instances of this. There's the one you're talking about behind the flag, and there's a freeze frame from that where it's zoomed in. And I didn't do any of this work, so I credit the people who did this work.
Yeah.
Where you're able to zoom in when you freeze frame it, and you can see clearly the four orbs and like this, distorted black shape because it's going so fast, where it's either a saucer or a cigar shape, but it's kind of distorted because of the speed that it's moving at. So we see that, and then we also see after Trump is being covered by the Secret Service, there's an orb that goes by. And so
Got it.
there's two different parts of this happen, and it just maybe it's the wrong reaction, but it just makes me feel uneasy because why are they there at that precise moment? Who are they? Like, is this just an absolute incredible coincidence?
Sure.
Or are they, whoever they is, there at that specific moment for what was happening? Really strange, man. And I think what makes me feel uneasy is just the situation and the unanswered questions behind it. Like, what the hell are they doing there?
Yeah.
What are they doing there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, you're right. Hearing you say that, I think this will be a good topic for us to go out on because it's something that's been coming up a lot, something I've covered. And hearing you say that, I forget the word you used, like it's terrifying, what it bothers you. I forgot exactly what you said. I want to misquote you, but
Mhm.
it's
Uneasy.
uneasy. It's concerning, right? Right. This situation. Like, so this idea that the reason we don't have like disclosure from our government, let's say per se, is that the truth is indigestible, right? This term
Mm.
that's kind of going around. Like we can't handle the truth. This is too dark. But then see when I hear people like yourself or other people and they talk about like that's what I feel it would relieve because I think having some knowledge about what's going on could even help people better understand these moments that are happening and maybe not be as uneasy or maybe uneasy in a different way, but at least more secure in, okay, at least I'm not crazy. I know
Mm.
this is happening. How do I prepare for this? So I'm curious, I know I said a lot there, but I'm just curious, like your opinion on if you think we deserve to know the truth, no matter what it is, or if it's too indigestible, like, yeah, just this whole topic. What do you think?
I think, well, yeah, I mean, deserve is a really interesting word. I think we deserve to,
Yeah.
you know, as a human race. I think we deserve to know the truth about our origins, or our relationship to other beings in the universe. I don't think, like, if there is a truth being hidden about all that, I don't think it's fair, just as a fellow human being, and in any scenario, as a citizen of a country, America or otherwise, right? We don't want our governments lying to us. We feel like we deserve to know the truth as tax-paying citizens, right? So I think, yeah, deserve is a really good word there. I do think we deserve to know. Now, whether or not people as a whole would be able to handle some of the truths is a completely different story. See, I don't think that I know one of the big things that always comes up with this is the question of faith and how would this impact the major religions of the world. I don't think personally that this would have a negative impact on the major religions. I think, just in my humble opinion, this would actually strengthen, in some cases, a belief in a higher power. Because, if you believe in God, I do. I'm not afraid to say that. If you believe in God, that, we were created by an all-powerful being, an all-loving God, then why can't we believe, and it would even strengthen our faith, that, wow, he really is all-powerful. Look at all these different races and beings he made around the universe. This is incredible. So to me, that would just kind of go with, see, like I told you, we're not just randomly put here. Look at all this other life throughout the universe.
Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to that question, it would actually kind of help the case. And I know, when people say, well, what if aliens created us in a petri dish? Listen, let's just find out what happens. If God created aliens first, and then he told them to go and experiment with us, then whatever, let's just find out. Let's just find out. I don't know. But it would be nice to know, what's going on behind the scenes. But, again, in whether or not it's digestible to the mass population, that's hard for me to say. I know you just spoke to Danny Sheehan too, so I'm sure he had some interesting things to say about this as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just like, it doesn't matter if it's digestible or indigestible. To me, that's not where the discussion is. To me, it's just, do we have a right to know or not? Because there's always going to be what ifs and maybes, no matter what. Even if, right, like no matter what, they'll always be, what if this and what if maybe that. That's always going to happen. We're never going to get away from that. So, and because we don't know how people are going to react, I almost think it doesn't matter. Like, our right to know supersedes any consequence regardless, because eventually, if it is true, and I do believe we're not alone in the universe, for me the question has always been, have they come to Earth? But I am a firm believer that we're not alone in the universe. But if that comes right to be truth, like, we're going to find out anyway. Like, we need to know. I think I'm with you. I think it would help people more than hurt people.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I'm with you on the I think there's a lot to that, what you said. I think just as a daily person, people who've had experiences right now, it's like, see, I'm not crazy, right? People who had an encounter but weren't sure what happened, right? I just think we deserve to know that fundamental truth, if that's what it is. And the idea of indigestible or not, or we can't handle it, I just like, that's, who's having that conversation? Like, what data are you going off of? Clearly someone can handle it, because you know about it. Clearly it's digestible for someone. So what about war and hunger and famine and murder? And is that digestible? No, we're human. I mean, we can take a lot. I think no matter what this truth is, I think either way there would be some sort of silver lining to it, right? It can't be all bad or all good, right? I mean, if it's biblical, right, there's both, and which one supersedes at the end? The good. So right at the end of the day, I find it fascinating. I think that's because I just see that being brought up as like, well, that's why disclosure isn't going to happen, or it's going to take a long time, because just society can't handle it. People cannot handle it. We're not going to be ready for it. I don't know. I just kind of done with that.
I don't know. Yeah, man. I got to be honest. I think it would be the flavor of the month, and I know
agree. Yeah, totally, dude.
People
Great.
would
Well
respond.
said. Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
We'll find out one weekend that it's all true, and then we'll go to the next weekend and be like, "Hey, what time's the game on?" You know,
100%.
that's just the way we're built. Like we keep moving, we keep going. So I really do think there would be that element. As crazy as that might sound to some people, there would be that element of flavor of the month to it.
No, man, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. I think that's exactly would be a big part of it. Because again, if it's not interrupting your life at that point, or unless there's some sort of government mandates, like you got to stay in your home
right
now because we told you this. If there's no real interruption,
right,
that's exactly what it's going to be. Flavor of the week. Yep, we heard it. Cool. We talked about it, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about. But I got to get back to work. I got this. I got that.
Yes,
life is still happening. Right. So yeah, no, that's
at the end of the day, you're still gonna be like, there'll be that shock at first, and then the next day you'll be like, oh shoot, my rent is due tomorrow.
Yeah, doesn't stop rent. Like you don't pay, your landlord's knocking on the door, but the aliens are here, man. He's like, I don't give a shit. I gotta pay the bank.
That's what it would be. So I think there's a lot that we can handle, just like kind of inherently as humans, we're kind of built that way. And we're built to move on and keep going. So I don't want to be treated like a child. You know how, like, as a child, or even as a parent, we talk to our kids sometimes, and well, in the back of our heads, we're like, oh, you're asking about a situation that's kind of very adultish, and I'll explain it to you in kid terms, but I'm not going to tell you all the details, right? We make that decision as parents.
Sure.
And I feel like that's what whoever's in charge, whether it's the government or military contractors or whoever's behind the scenes, that's kind of how we're being treated.
Sure.
It's like, okay, we'll let you see the gimbal video, we'll let you see the Tic Tac video and listen to David Grush, but we're not going to tell you everything because you're not really ready to hear it. Like, just tell us.
I agree.
We'll be fine.
I'm with you. Well, look, as let's maybe end on an optimistic note here as we roll out. Where do you see, what are you hopeful for, and for the rest of the year? About this?
I'm hoping that they don't try to use disclosure in a negative way. I know we tried to end on a positive note, but if I'm not really doing that very well, so I apologize.
Oh man, that was hilarious.
I'm really sorry.
I love it.
Very sorry about that, but I just one of my big worries at the moment is that they're going to try to use disclosure to have a negative impact moving forward. And maybe that's just a conspiracy theorist to me, but there's a lot of weird stuff going on coming into election season, as we know. And I don't want this to become part of it, where they try to use it in a negative fashion during a very, very volatile election season. So that's kind of, I'm hopeful that that doesn't happen. If I can put a positive spin on that.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go.
Does that make sense, or do I sound crazy?
No. I think a lot of people are going to share that same concern as I do as well. So I'm with you. I totally agree. Look, I'm hopeful that we'll get a hearing before the end of the year. I'm hopeful that people will learn to sort of manage their expectations about this as we move forward as well, and realize that there's a lot going on in multiple, arenas, and that it can all happen at the same time. It's not like we got to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm hopeful that more people will get behind sort of citizen disclosure and doing these sort of citizen investigations, and people taking it upon themselves to looking into this, because I think that's a big change and a big shift in this topic. And I'd like, I'm hopeful more of that comes out, and that more people want to talk about it and cover it. And that it does get more mainstream coverage that way, and doesn't get kind of buried with the election stuff. But that may happen anyway. I mean, it's a huge election.
Sure.
So but that's okay. We could be a little patient. We got next year, right? Things are going to happen. But I think, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, the reason why I bring up, election season specifically is because we kept hearing whispers of October surprises, which is normally reserved for politics. But I've heard it, just like I'm sure you have, being referenced in this arena in conjunction with an election season. I know Danny Sheehan has spoken about it. You just spoke to him. Carl Nell has talked about it. Nick Pope mentioned it to me one time on an interview about October. Are they saving something for October? So, Paul Hynek talked about it. So I just keep hearing about October, as I'm sure you have. Yeah. So I just don't want something intentionally weird that's going to put a negative spin on all this to happen, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I agree 100%. Well, look, Stephen, is there anything else that we didn't bring up or anything you want to clarify? If not, just let the people know how to listen to you, stay in contact with you, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, to clarify, I'm not a crazy person. And I know that's what crazy
It's going to take a lot more than this interview to prove that to people, Stephen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm trying to prove it to my wife, so we'll see. I don't know if it was verification myself today.
Bro, me too. That's hilarious.
But aside from that, yeah, just, the usual plugs, social media, Twitter, TikTok, it's at UA Podcast 850. You can find and follow along. All the stuff we talked about is going to be right there. All the pictures we talked about, even the ones that we didn't go through just for, timing reasons. There's too many. That's all on the Twitter handle. TikTok, I put up different videos. YouTube, same thing. It's at UA Podcast. Sans the 850. So at UA Podcast on YouTube, but I'm trying to put up more stuff on there too. And just follow along. I mean, you can search for the podcast anywhere. There's 3 years worth of episodes. And there's still more coming. So just search UAP or Unidentified Alien Podcast on all the major platforms wherever you get it. And hopefully you enjoy if you've never consumed it before.
Hell yeah, man. And, please check the YouTube description. I'll have links for everything for Stephen as well to check out. So, yeah, man, just thank you so much for coming on. And, I'm glad we got to follow up on the story. And honestly, it's just good chatting with you, man, and getting your perspective on things and catching up. So I think we'll have to make this sort of a regular thing every once in a while, right? Get together and talk about some stuff. I really enjoy chatting with you, man. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, likewise, man. It's a great time. And for sure, anytime, man. This is great. I love the back and forth. So 100%. Anytime you think it makes sense, I'm happy to come back on. I love it.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.